It is a huge pleasure to be here in Southampton, because I came to Southampton at the age of about 6. I went to Bassett Green Junior School, and after that, the 11 plus, I went on to King Edward VI School, and today we've been to King Edward's, and we've taken a lesson with a group of children there, and we met the headmaster and had a bit of a chat, and it was absolutely fantastic nostalgia trip. So much of it is new, but the basic building that was there when I was there is still there. We went along and looked for the window that I broke when I was in the first floor. Sadly, it's all been double glazed now, so my cracked window is no longer there. And Simon and John were kind enough to drive me around. We passed by the 2 houses I lived in, the one in Ethelbert Avenue that we moved into first, and then my father was actually a lecturer in mechanical engineering at Southampton University, and we moved from that Ethelbert Avenue house to Highfield Lane, number 29 Highfield Lane. We went and took a look at that one as well, so absolutely had a super time. Now, I'm here as the chairman of the Freedom Association primarily, and the Freedom Association, as you all know, many of your members, the Freedom Association exists to promote the principles of personal liberty. I sometimes refer to them as Jeffersonian principles, since I discovered that that seems to be what the Americans call them. And we are cross-party in the sense that we do have members of other parties and of no party. But as we've already noticed, we seem to be mostly conservatives here, so I will make that assumption. I sometimes describe the Freedom Association as the conservative wing of the Conservative Party. Why do we need a Freedom Association? Well, Jeremy's already mentioned one or two of the issues that we are worried about. I think the starting point, and it's a point that David Cameron made very clearly at party conference, is we have too much government, and that government is involved in too many aspects of our lives. One of the things that Gordon Brown has sought to do, very successfully, because he's had some successes, he has sought to bring more and more and more people onto the public payroll. That is half the problem that we face today, the economic problem. He has at the same time sought to bring more and more people, wholly or partly, into a position of dependency on the state. Now, there is talk of limiting some benefits to people on less than $50,000 a year. I was horrified to think that anybody on over $50,000 a year is getting any benefits at all. But it is a deliberate strategy to make the state the most important thing in people's lives, to bump up the payroll vote so that everybody, whether they're employed by the state or whether they're receiving benefits from the state, has an obligation, or feels they have an obligation, to vote for the party that will do those things. The state wants to involve itself very much in the raising of children. Traditionally, families raise children. Some parents are very bad people, but on the whole, the great majority of parents want to do a good job. I'm sorry, it's just a specialised area, isn't it? I should be in real trouble here. But whether it's a little thing like the reasonable chastisement of children. Nobody believes in beating up kids, but I often think with a quick slap, certainly I got a few when I was a kid, is an awful lot better than more extended and more liberal forms of punishment. Babysitting. 2 policewomen, you know the case, it's been all over the newspapers, 2 policewomen agreed to share the babysitting of each other's children while they do a job share, and the Office of Child Management, or whatever it's called, off-ed is it? I lose track of the things going on. Come along and say, oh, you can't do that because you're receiving a benefit. What benefit? Money? Goods? No, each receives the benefit of having the other babysit. The government, fortunately, seems to be backing off from that. But the idea we can live in a state where they can start out by saying these things is absolutely appalling. And then we've got background checks. You know, you've got friends who've got kids, and you've got kids. I mean, probably many of you haven't got kids, but imagine you had. You want to take the kids on the weekend to rugby, and next weekend your friend is going to take your kids and his kids to the rugby. You can't do it because you haven't had the background check done. You want to run a scout troop, what's the waiting list now for kids who want to join scout troops? It's over 10,000, I think. And the reason the kids can't go to the scout troop is because there isn't a leader. And one of the reasons, only one of the reasons, I admit, but one of the reasons there aren't enough scout leaders is people look at the rigmarole they've got to go through to get approved before they can be a scout leader, and they just think it's going to be that difficult, I'm not going to bother. Similarly with school governors and a lot of voluntary work that people can undertake, are prepared to undertake, should undertake, They look at it and they say, no, the regulations are just too much, too difficult. Then what about the issue of surveillance? I'm sure there are some places where cameras in our streets are a good thing and prevent crime. But we are the most surveilled society in Europe, in the world, I think it's true to say. The average person in a town is seen on a video camera 50 times a day. Can that be right? Can it be necessary? I don't know if any of you drive. I'm sure some of you do. What about speed cameras? I'm delighted that our transport team, our Conservative shadow transport team, has said we will use less speed cameras and more alternative methods of controlling speed. This idea that the government makes draconian rules and then punishes you to the point where you lose your license and in many cases can't continue to do your job. It is out of hand. It has gone too far. And I'm really, really pleased that the Conservative government will address that problem. Then look at the databases they're putting us on. We've got the NHS database. We've got the DNA database, which you can get onto whether you have been accused of a crime or not. And at the moment, you can't get off it. You may be on it for 10 years, you may be on it forever. And what we're also doing, Jeremy mentioned the EU, of course we are now opening the databases to share them with our fellow colleagues in the EU. I've been to some of those countries, Bulgaria, Romania, next year Croatia. I've done a lot of work in Croatia. I don't want my details to be open to the Croatian mafia, and that is what will happen. There is no way, we can't control data in this country. If they leave files on trains, if they accidentally leave disks of data, hundreds of thousands of people's data in some cases, where others can find them, how on earth are we going to control that data when it's shunted all around Europe, including some states which frankly don't have quite the same standards as we have? And of course we've got ID cards, and I'm glad to be able to say again, of course, we have a Conservative opposition which has been very clear, we will not proceed with ID cards, which is neat news because nobody in the commercial sector really wants to get involved in pitching for business on an ID card project, which they have a pretty good idea isn't going to go ahead. Then there's the whole issue of political correctness, and the Freedom Association has done a lot of work with Laura Midgley in the campaign against political correctness. But we've got to a stage now where there are many words that we can't use. I was reading a story in the paper today. A BBC commentator was commenting on the recent snooker match, and he said that one of the players had a chink in his armour. It was a Chinese player. There is all kind of trouble and news stories, and should he be condemned? The guy didn't mean to be offensive, the Chinese player was not offended, but we're not allowed to use the word. You have to be careful what toys your kids play with. You can't give guns to boys because that's stereotyping. You better not give dolls, still less lollywogs, to girls, or you'll be in fearful trouble. Another area that's under threat is smoking. Now, I gave up smoking 35 years ago, so I'm the worst kind of anti-smoker. I used to do it, I gave it up, I hate it, I wish nobody would ever smoke again. But the fact is that 25% of the constituents that I represent are smokers. They have rights too. I have a right to fresh air, and I go around insisting on my right to fresh air. But I have to agree that they too have a right to smoke. And when I arrive at a big office building, say, and I see that pathetic line of addicts standing outside in the rain and dropping their butt ends, those people have rights, and there should be provision for them, just as there should be provision for me. If you've got a pub with several rooms, why on earth can't you have a snug where Ina Sharples can... Oh, sorry, nobody will remember Ina Sharples, can they? Where Ina Sharples can sit and smoke, and the other bars where you're not going to smoke. It's an extraordinary draconian issue where we can just tell people that they are exiled from society because of what they legally choose to do. The right of all sorts of authorities to enter your home. There was a story a little while ago saying that nobody these days knew how to cook food and there was too much waste. So councils, I hope you're not going to do this on your council, councils are going to start sending food advisors and knock on doors in order to advise households how to avoid wasting food. I mean, you couldn't make it up, could you? But it goes on, the latest thing, the report from the Carbon Committee, is it called, that was reported on this week, they are proposing that officials should go from door to door to every home in the land to perform an energy efficiency audit and tell us what double glazing and loft insulation we should have. I've got lots of double glazing and loft insulation. I don't really need a guy from the council to come and tell me about it.